Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome to another Tanakh and Torah review. My name is Zurishaddai. I'm one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH, CHOKMAH, BINAH, located in 382 Hamilton, Brooklyn, New York. Zip code is 11231. Thanking the Creator of heaven and earth for all things and everything, food, clothing, and shelter, for the ability to think, be able to walk, to be healthy. I'm grateful to the Creator for all things and everything, and I say hallelujah, thanking the Creator for being who He is and giving us all life and understanding, and us recognizing that there is only one God. His name is Yah, Yehudah. Giving due respect to the leadership of BINAH, CHOKMAH, BINAH, even my brother, Chief Prince Yediel Ben Yissaskar, that the Most High God be with him and his family, his household, his children, grandchildren. Most High God bless his family, his wife. That the Creator be with all of our elders, be with all of our people. Near and abroad, all of you on the internet land, praying that the Most High God will bless each and every one of you, that the Creator would bless you with the endeavors of your mind, that you desire in righteousness. And I pray that the Creator will continue to be with you and bless you with knowledge, wisdom, and above all understanding. At this time, we're going to move straight ahead, and I'm going to pass it on to one of my teachers, one of my mentors, a man that puts in the work, has been putting in the work for about 5 decades. I think he's going almost on 6 decades soon. So without any further ado, I introduce to you my teacher, Nasik, Zurishaddai Ben Yehudah. Hallelujah. Shalom, Nasik.
Shalom. First of all, I'd like to give praises to the Supreme Eternal Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, and due respect to the platform on the D.C.B platform, Chief Prince Yediel Ben Yissaskar, to the host Chief Uziel, to the princes, chiefs, brothers, sisters, rabbis, rabbin, the Kohanim, the Marine, and visitors to the channel. I greet you all in the time of my forefathers. Shalom Aleichem and Eli Shabbat Shalom. First, I'd like to say Adonai, Septai Titaku Fiyagi Tilateka, O Lord, open my lips, and my mouth should declare thy praise. This happened to be the day I'm actually doing this here particular review into the Sidra, Balak. I know most Israelites, like I say often, until the end of this month, I'm a week behind everybody else. They're doing it pretty much along with Israel and the Israelite community. Also, this happened to be a fast of the 4th month that is observed by a lot of people that follow pretty much a rabbinic approach in that area. I tend to do the fast. I've been doing it for many, many years, so quite a few decades. I was doing this fast of the 4th month. Now it's a fast that was started, and it's called the fast of the 4th month, and it's dated and traditionally dated, I should say, the 17th of the 4th month. And in general circles, it's called Tammuz. And this is when the Babylonians supposed to actually breach the wall into Jerusalem. Now, also centuries later, 400 some odd years later, that the Romans breached the wall on this particular day. Now we're sure 100% and pretty much 100% sure when the Romans actually breached the wall on the 4th month, the 17th of Tammuz. We're sure about that. The first temple is basically traditionally put at that particular date, because for those that might want to look it up, you might find some excerpts similar to that around that time period. When you go in the book of 2 Kings, 25th chapter, starting at the 3rd verse to the 4th, well, basically you could start from the 2nd verse to the 7th verse to get an overall picture of that particular time. And then when you go into Jeremiah, the 39th chapter, 2nd verse, and you go to Jeremiah, the 52nd chapter, the 6th and 7th verse, Jeremiah and them, they say it was the 9th that this happened. So you could do your further research, discuss it with your teachers. Why would we, most of the sages determine that that first time was actually the 17th, whereas we don't have any kind of prophetic vision when the Romans destroyed. So we have more of a secular history when they talk about the 17th, that the same day, same thing happened. And on the same date, 3 weeks later, that the temple was destroyed. Now, so those that might have a calendar may say, well, why are we observing it the day after? Well, unlike Yom Kippur, any other man-made fast that we declare and upon ourselves, we postpone it behind the Shabbat, for the Shabbat should be a day of joy. When it comes to Purim, though, the fast on Esther, then we tend to do it, push it up as opposed to backward, backwards. But all the other fasts we push beyond. So, so in 3 weeks' time, it'd be like a long fast. One of the hardest fasts for me to do, pretty much, simply because it's summertime. And one of the things about the summertime, for most nations, the summer supposed to be a time of vacation, joy, a lot of happiness going on. To say, oh, I can't wait for the summer to come. I go to the beach. We go have a family reunion. We could go out and just let ourselves go and relax and enjoy. But for us, we find that the summertime been most tragic for the nation of Israel throughout history. The temple being destroyed. We're getting beat down, being taken to captivity. We had a king like Nasik, that they say when he did everything, despicable, even murdering, having people killed directly. He was responsible for a lot of murders going on at his time. He wound up going into captivity himself as an individual in Babylon, but it was the Assyrians that was in charge then. It wasn't quite yet the Babylonians that was in charge at the time. And Nebuchadnezzar, and he wasn't quite him at that time. And he got out, and he made a transformation in his life. So a lot of Haftarahs that comes along at that particular time, usually Haftarahs of admonishment coming from the next 3 weeks. So you might find people that might not shave, may not listen to music, may not wear a certain makeup, whatever the case is, they tend to diminish their joy for that period of time. When you read in the book of Zechariah, 8th chapter, 18th verse, you find that those days will be, that we know that those different fasts that was started, the main ones, not talking about the fast of Esther, the fast of the 4th month, the fast of the 5th month, the fast of the 7th month, not talking about Yom Kippur, but Gadaliah, and the fast of the 10th month. So that's the 4th, 5th, 7th, and 10th month. Those 4 fasts, the prophet asked, and then when the reply from the Creator was, and we also find 2 things. We find out that he was doing it for 70 years. So we got a date pretty much that it was actually started, those particular fasts. And the prophet asked, should we continue? And the Creator didn't say stop. He didn't say go. And he particularly asked about the fast of the 5th month more so. And the Creator said, in the future, that those days that you remember, that you afflict your souls and bring about your remembrance of your frailties, and those days will be days of joy. So, so in most synagogues, when they do prayer service, they bring out the Torah and read part of the book of Exodus on public fast days, and also that then in the future, the summertime be a good time for our people. We won't have to really reflect on the misery of our people. We could reflect on the good times in the summertime, because the temple will be established, the people will be back. But these are in a lot of days. But the Creator said in the future, what day that is, I don't know. and no one for certain could say other than the Creator. All right, so now I'm dealing with the Sidra Balak, and the Haftarah going to be on Balak, and it'll be coming from Micah, but most people say Micah, the 5th chapter, the 6th verse, going into the 6th chapter, the 8th verse. But before I go into the Haftarah, I'd like to just touch on a little bit about the Sidra Balak. Now, that's one of the most widely told stories, and it's most comical stories, as well as the most serious story that could be gleaned from that particular book. I usually ask people, and you might want to discuss it, out of most biblical stories, I just throw a few of them out there. The story about Joseph, you know, in Egypt, any part of his life, or the story of King David slaying Goliath, or the story of Samson, or the story of Balak. Which story would you like to really teach your children? And which story would you put more emphasis on out those stories I just mentioned? The story concerning Joseph, the story concerning Samson, the story concerning David and Goliath, or the story of Balak. And also that's something to consider. And and I have my reasons. If I was to choose, I would choose this particular story as a major story to share with my children, more so than the other stories. And my reasons, could be expressed later on, at some other future time. But for the sake of time, I'm not going to do that now. But in reference to Balak, Balak is the king of Moab. And I'm going to do it like a sort of subversive sequel before I go into the Haftarah. And a subversive sequel is that you try to see events that happened in the past, similarities, and opposite results, and opposite, results from it. So that's what I consider sort of like a subversive sequel. I might use characters, might use events. In this case, I'm gonna use both characters and events. Now, one of the areas too, when we look at Balak, is that the Sidra is named after him, but the major character is what we call, most people say Bilam, in Hebrew we say Bilam, but however you pronounce it, we pretty much know the guy. Just think of Balak, some people might even say that. But he's the main character in this particular portion of the Sidra. And out of most Sidros that you read in Tanakh, those that have follow a scroll or go to a tikkun to try to learn to read every week when it calls up to the pulpit, which we call this in Hebrew the bima, that you have breaks between open or closed break. Most Sidros have at least one break in it. Some might have two, very few might have three. There's no break in between the story that we pick up from Balak all the way to the end of this particular Sidra. So that is a lesson within itself. Now, and then you say, well, why would we call it Balak? Since he's the king, but he played a small role for the main character that had all the juice. The superstar is Bilam. And then we got to look at who idea it was to get Bilam into the picture. So sometimes, we may have some superstars in movies, but the writer, the guy that come up with the writer, they get more of the credit. The actual story writer, the guy that set everything in motion. So here, Balak set things in motion. Now, when I said about subversive sequel, I'm just going to read how it opens up just a little bit, and then go back a little backdraft. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, hopefully on it. In the 22nd chapter of Numbers, starting at the 2nd verse, And it goes all the way to the 24th chapter of 25th chapter of Numbers, the 9th verse. But I'm just going to pick certain points in it. It says, and Balak, the son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. And Moab was sore afraid of the people because they were many. And Moab was overcome with dread because of the children of Israel. And Moab said unto the elders of Midian, now will this multitude lick up all that is round about us, as the ox licketh up the grass of the field. And Balak, the son of Zippor, was king of Moab at the time. And he sent messengers unto Balaam, the son of Beor, to Petor, which is by the river, to the land of the children of his people, to call him, saying, behold, there's a people come out from Egypt. Behold, they cover the face of the earth, and they abide over against me. Come now, therefore, I pray thee, curse me this people, for they are too mighty for me. Peradventure I shall prevail, that we may smite them, and that I may drive them out of the land. For I know that he whom thou blessest is blessed, and he whom thou cursest is cursed. And the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with the words of divination in their hand, and they came unto Balaam and spoke unto him the words of Balak. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there for a minute, but I want to bring out some points that I find interesting. One, Balak saw what the people did. He didn't say Moab seen. We read in the Haftarah that all the Jericho, most of them they heard. So why everybody in Jericho would naturally be afraid, because they heard, what Israel did on the other side to the two kings, the mighty kings. So they was afraid when Joshua sent out the spies secretly. All right, everybody's heart melted. But they went even further and thought about the 40-year-old rep, about what they did to the Egyptians and how they came across on dry land. So they remember all that. And they said, wow, these people still got some supernatural power. They just hanging out there for 40 years, but they got some supernatural power. And then when we look at the fight, the last fight we had in the Moses period, Moses defeated Sihon. And when it came to fight Og of Bashan, so he defeated Sihon on the Amorites. When it came to defeat Og of Bashan, Moses was told by God, do not fear him. Now, if God told Moses, don't fear Og, the king of Bashan, then that means Moses wasn't naturally afraid. Here, the king saw what Israel did to those two kings, and he was afraid. Now, what is the difference? Moses kept that fear to himself. We only know about it because it's written in the book. Balak, whose name means a destroyer, divided and destroyer, he shared his fears with the people. And therefore, the people was afraid. We know in the book of Deuteronomy, we read later on that one of the last guys to lead a battlefield with a excusable, with an excuse, is he that is faint-hearted. Lead a battle, lest you make your brother's heart faint. Fear is contagious. He the only one that is infectious. So here it is that a good leader, such as Moses, kept his fear to himself, as opposed to those 10 spies that he sent 40 years prior. They instilled fear in the people. So here's a king whose name means a destroyer. And then he's saying, look, they beat these guys physically. I need to get somebody and beat them on their own terms. I need somebody who has some connection with some spiritual source. And then what is even unique about it, he said, I want you to curse them, not kill them. Curse them so I can beat them, so I can have the reputation. because my name means a destroyer. So he don't want Balaam, normally if you're really that terrified, you say, take him out, make him disappear. No, he's so afraid, but yet so vain. They said, no, I don't want you to take him out. I want to look like I'm beating him down. I want to get that kind of reputation because he beat down some serious guys. And the people got afraid because their leader was afraid. And they checked the guy's record. They checked his resume. So when we get down, when he checked the resume, and he had the elders. And why the elders of Midian? Moses got advice from Midian, an elder, his father-in-law. Also, elders of Midian might have been, he went and he did his research. The king must have did his research. Not only the research about Israel and knowing about what happened and seeing what's happening, but he also know that their battles didn't come from natural ability. So he said, I need to get some supernatural ability, because that was supernatural what they did. So as a heathen, they got their own belief system. And since they had their own belief system, they said, not only I need somebody that could do the job, I know could do the job, but I need somebody that has a reputation of not failing. So, and you notice the way he words it here. He brings out and says, that, I know that he whom thou blessest is blessed, and he whom thou curses is cursed. All right. So he starts off saying, you got the capability, but that's not what I'm looking for, a blessing. I'm looking for somebody to curse him. Now, what is the difference is, which I'll get to, as we're going on. So we know the story. The guys came there. We know automatically that Balaam told him to wait, and then God refused for him to go, and says the people was blessed. But you notice everybody kept everything anonymous in this whole story. The only names we really know about within this whole story is Balak and Balaam. Everybody else is just a character of an unknown, unnamed fame, and infamous, as you would say. And then when we go further and look into the story, is that the Creator refused him, told him not to go, said that people were blessed. But the term that is used is Baruch, and it's referred to and translated in the Bible as, they are blessed. All right. So, but Baruch, here's where I say the subversive sequel, Abraham and Balaam. Abraham himself said, those, you're going to be a blessing to the nations. Those that bless you will be blessed. Those that curse you will be cursed. Balaam, on the other hand, is hired to curse, though he could bless. He's hired to curse, and he, was not so much a blessing unto the nations. He's an opportunity for individuals. Well, Abraham himself was to be a blessing to the nations. Now, Abraham, you read about, is the first character in scriptures that actually had the authority to bless. For he himself was a blessing. Where Balaam, on the other hand, who's from the same neighborhood, by the way, we can know about another character from that same area we call Laban. Laban, Jacob's father-in-law. That's what Abraham's native neighborhood was. So, and that's where his kinfolk was. So that's another story about, I'll leave that, for now. But here it is that he was a powerful individual. Now we have Moses himself, the greatest of all the prophets in Israel. And yet we have another guy on the other side who has as much power and authority as Moses, as we see throughout the story. You know, he has as much power and authority as Moses. He's on the same level, but from an opposite tangent. So that's why, even though he started off as a, we call him a diviner, he's like, we had half gun will travel, half prophet will travel. You know, if you need me, you hire me. You know, if I think it's working, I handle it. But he dealt with the true and living God. He didn't deal with a strange God. So we know that twice he was told not, he was told not to go. All right. And then we goes in and say, well, okay. 12th verse, it says, and God said unto Balaam, thou shalt not go with them. Thou shalt not curse the people, for they are blessed. That's where you get the bruchu. And Balaam rose up in the morning and said unto the prince of Balak, get you into your land, for the Lord refused to give me leave to go with you. All right. And then when they got back, they report the story different. All right. And then after that, in 15th verse, and Balak sent yet again princes more and more honorable than they. And they came to Balaam and said to him, thus said Balak, the son of Zippor, let nothing, I pray thee, hinder thee from coming unto me, for I will promote thee unto very great honor, and whatsoever thou sayest unto me, I will do. Come therefore, I pray thee, curse me this people. And Balaam answered and said unto the servants of Balak, if Balak will give me his house full of silver and gold, I cannot go beyond the words of the Lord my God to do anything small or great. Therefore, I pray you tarry. And then it said, ye also hear this night, that I may know what the Lord would speak unto me more. And God came unto Balaam at night and said unto him, if the men are come to call thee, rise up and go with them. But only the words which I speak unto thee, that shalt thou do. And Balaam rose up in the morning and saddled his ass and went with the princes of Moab. And God's anger was kindled because he went, and the angel of the Lord placed himself in the way for an adversary, which in Hebrew says Satan, against him. And he was riding upon his ass, and his two servants were with him. Now, what is interesting, I know, in the story, that I like to bring out, is that later on in this parable, which I'm not going to even touch on a lot of this parable, is that he's the same guy that says, God is not a man that he should lie, nor the son of a man that he should repent. Why go? Why tell him that other guys stick around and plead with them to stick around? Not say, oh, I got word back, it's over with, that deal. But he said, but he talked about the ante and the price, almost like some people, the rabbinic literature say he's a descendant of Laban. I can't prove it. I just know he's from the same neighborhood. And this is not a short journey from over there across the Euphrates back over to where they had to go. This is a long trip that he got to make. And yet, so they're going to take some time. So I'll let you know what the children of Israel are doing in the meantime at this particular time. And it brings up a lot of other questions too. And what's going on at this particular time? How soon is this after the defeat of Sihon and all that? And how come Moses is not abreast of all this here that's going on? And so what is interesting is that the Creator, always the question, why God get angry with him when he told him to go? We have free will. That's what we have. A lot of people say we got free choice. I don't say free choice. Moses put a choice. He said, I put before you this day in the book of Deuteronomy. And that's the only time you read that. I put before you this day, a curse and a blessed, life and death and all that stuff. So, and he tell you what to choose. And it said, if you don't think about yourself, think about your future, which is your children. So that we have free will, and God allows us the free will. to do what we really desire to do, but we have to pay the consequences for doing it. His desire was to go because he told the guys, I pray, tarry. Instead, saying, look, if that Balaam give me everything he got, you know, I can't go no more further than what God said. So he letting them know, I have no power within myself, by myself. I had to access permission to be able to do certain things. But they tarried, and he went, and God was angry with him. So now when we talk about the angel, and this is what the story I like, and everybody else like. That's why I said, it says, and the ass saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with a sword drawn in his hand. And the ass turned aside out of the way and went into the field. And Balaam smote the ass to turn her into the way. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a hollow way between the vineyard, a fence being on this side and a fence on that side. Some books would say a wall. And the ass saw the angel of the Lord, and she thrust herself into the wall and crushed Balaam's foot against the wall. And he smote her again. And the angel of the Lord went further and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to turn either to the right or the left. And the ass saw the angel of the Lord, and she laid down under Balaam, and Balaam's anger was kindled, and he smote the ass with his staff. All right. Now, there's a couple of things I like to bring out. Another subversive sequel. When Balaam took off earlier, he saddled his own donkey. He saddled his own donkey, saddled it up. Abraham did the similar thing centuries before when he was getting ready to offer up Isaac. He got up early in the morning to saddle his own. So that means that Abraham was committed to do what was requested of him. And Balaam was committed to do what was requested on him, you know what I mean? But for two different reasons. You know, two different reasons. So he imitating Abraham in one respect by saddling his own donkey, though he got servants and he's a wealthy individual. And here Abraham has servants we know was a wealthy individual, the first so-called rich man in cattle, silver, and gold. You know, so we know he's the first rich man that's recorded in scriptures. And he saddled his own, you know, asked to go ahead and get ready to offer up Isaac. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time in this because it's not my purpose in this particular venue, but I like to share a couple things in it. So Abraham got married for trying to start early. Balaam think he gonna get some merit because I'm doing what God want me to do early in the morning. Today, some people can't even get to the synagogue early. Won't get up early to go to the synagogue, go to camps or whatever places of worship. They won't go, and that's one day a week when they're supposed to be off. Try to help themselves. But anyway, that's another story as well. But he gets up, almost imitating something in history. So that's a parallel, to what he's doing in the morning and moving. So Abraham, behold the spot, afar off. Here it is that Balaam himself, Balaam, he couldn't even see what was directly in front of him. And so his donkey had wound up seeing this adversary, which is referred to in the book of Satan. That's, not saying that it's a devil with a pitchfork and all that kind of stuff. And it said the sword drawn. And he smote him 3 times. But, didn't Balaam resist what the Creator said? The first time, God had to say it's one time. And he still went out after that. So if Balaam, resisted, then how much more for the beast to resist? And the beast resists, out of fear. So this, whatever creature you look like, and look menacing, that the animal recognized it. You don't want to go there. All right. And then what happens after that? It said, in the 28th verse, and the Lord opened up the mouth of the ass, and she said unto Balaam, what have I done unto thee? that thou hast smitten me these 3 times. And Balaam said unto the ass, because thou hast marked me, I would there were a sword in my hand, for now I had killed thee. There's a sword already available, but it's in a different hand. It's not in his hand, but a sword right there, but he can't see that sword, you know. And the ass said unto Balaam, am I not, am not I thine ass, upon which thou hast written all thy life long unto this day? I mean, you didn't meet me yesterday. Reasoning with him, opening his mouth. Now, just the first time in history. Now, we know we talk about the garden story, and I always have a lot of different conversation on that, but I'm not the one to go too far from that. But the garden story is that we talk about the serpent communicating with Eve and speaking unto Eve. There's many ways to communicate, you know, with people. You know, people could, you know, communicate with their pets, make the pets do phenomenal things. They understand the pets when they have certain moves, swings, and stuff like that. So that's, you know, just something to discuss further. But here it is that this time, this creature, his donkey, mouth open up to communicate. Balaam's power is in his mouth and in his voice. You know, Israel's power is in their voice. So Israel's power is in their voice, because it says, when Jacob went to get the blessing from Esau, he said, the hands is that of Esau, but the voice is that of Jacob. What do that mean? That means we have the power to petition in prayer. You know, when we cried in Egypt, you know, God heard us. So here it is that the mouth of this animal opened up and reasoned with him. And he still, anger blinds the individual. And he had to agree against his own moral judgment. He had to agree. Yeah, you're right. You never did this before. So why you didn't consider any kind of mercy? There's a lot of areas going with that. No mercy, no consideration. So after that, you know, and he said, you've been riding me since, you know, you were born, not since I was born, you know, your lifelong. So it tell you all your life, you know. So if you're telling me that, you know what I mean, that which I've written upon all thy life long unto this day, that means I'm older than you. That's something to consider. That the animal say, I'm older than you. I don't know how old was he, but the animal let you know. If you rode on me all your life long, that means when your mama even carried you in her belly, you know, I was the one she was riding. When you got old enough, you would ride me by yourself. So that means out of all the property you got, all the other cattle you got, I was your favorite donkey that you like to ride all the time. Now look how you treat me. So this is something. So it brings another story about why even this animal was more considerate of his rider after getting abused by the rider. So that brings another tangent in there, you know, the cruelty, the beatings. And then it says, and the ass said unto Balaam, okay, we're just written that. Okay. All right. And then 31st verse said, then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with the sword drawn in his hand, and he bowed his head and fell on his face. And the angel of the Lord said unto him, wherefore hast thou smitten thy ass these 3 times? Cruelty to animals. Behold, I am come forth for an adversary, because thy way is contrary unto me. Talking in the person on behalf of the messenger that sent them, which is the creator. And the ass saw me and turned aside before me these 3 times. Unless she had turned aside from me, surely now I had even slain thee and saved her alive. All right. What's so important in that verse is that when the creator sent a death angel out, somebody that, you know, we could call a death angel because he's come here to slay, And he said, you was the intended target. But now I can't leave here empty. So there's a lot of discussions about, since he had the sword drawn, that and those that do with martial arts and stuff like that, or even gunslingers in the Wild West, they don't draw your sword or draw your gun unless you intend on using it and killing somebody. So a lot of comments say that animal there was slain in place of Balaam because it would have been probably worshipped later on as a deity. Because you got a novel now. Because there used to be a show called, Talking Donkey. I forgot if it was a little before my time, I guess. We know we had a talking horse, but it was a show about talking donkey as well. All right, and so now, and Balaam said unto the angel of the Lord, I have sinned, for I knew not that thou stoodest in the way against me. Now, therefore, if it displease thee, I will get me back. And the angel of the Lord said unto Balaam, go with the men, but only the words that I shall speak unto thee, thou shalt speak. Now, why the other guys didn't see anything? I mean, they didn't see anything either. Here this guy acting crazy, talking all kind of gibberish, to an animal that's talking back, and we don't hear the conversation because they would say, well, what's going on? Or either if they heard the conversation, wow, this is amazing. He can even make his animal talk. We know he got some power, So it could be one or the other. Either they didn't, and they definitely didn't see the adversary, that's for sure, because they could have warned him. But it's a question whether the guys was able to hear this animal talk or not. Because the adversary only appeared and the ass only one saw it, that we got it clear. And then finally God had to open up Balaam's eyes to see it. So the two guys that's with him, the servants that's with him, they ain't seeing anything, but it didn't say they couldn't hear anything. So I wonder what's going on with Master. But another story, just something to play around with and discuss, because there's really no wrong way of viewing this particular book, in this particular story. And it goes a little further and say that, so Balaam went with the princes of Balak, and when Balak heard that Balaam has come, he went out to meet him unto Ur of Moab, which is on the border of Anan, which is in the utmost part of the border. And Balak said unto Balaam, did I not earnestly send unto thee to call thee? Wherefore camest thou not unto me? And am I not able indeed to promote thee to honor? And Balaam said unto Balak, lo, I am come unto thee, but have I now any power at all to speak? So one of the areas is that we know how the story goes, that when he gets there, speak anything, the word that God put it in my mouth, that shall I speak. All right. So one of the bad things is that we know, and those that might have looked over some of our talks in the past, I go a little bit deeper into the Sidra of Balak. But right now, I'm not going to do that. I just want to bring out the highlights about the subversive sequel. That you got Moses, one of the greatest prophets. You got Balaam just talking to the same living God. All right. And, when Moses was talked to God, face to face with words. Everybody else would say through dreams or visions. Well, Balaam had visions, and also he had God's words clear coming to him. So he was considered a prophet unto the nations. So he was like the opposite. Also, he tried to imitate Abraham because about blessings and curses, and the movement that Abraham had to perform God's will. But here, and I go a little deeper into the subversive sequel at another time, perhaps, I might get an opportunity to talk about that, comparisons with Balaam and our father Abraham. All right. But the main thing was to say that he wasn't able to curse the people. He got there. They showed him all the people out there. What's interesting in the story, everybody is being anonymous and elusive with one another. Nobody is dealing with a, as we say, a full deck or being honest with each other. The guys kept the people anonymous. Bilam, automatically wasn't honest in himself because he said to God, we couldn't go, wouldn't allow him to go. But then he made the people think he still could do a little something, but he said, only the words that God put in my mouth, that shall I speak. But he ain't saying that the people are blessed. I can't curse them. He didn't say that at all. Only the words that God put in my mouth, that would I speak. And then the first group of guys said he refused to come instead of saying what Bilam said. All right? And Balak himself being deceitful, in a sense, from the first beginning of the mission, I don't want you to destroy him. I just want you to, weaken him so I could beat him, in open battle. So that's all this is what's going on in the book. But one of the interesting things is that when we get to the very what I like to bring out in the book of about this particular sidra is that one of the blessings, and I'm just going to move on from there. But those that might want to go about dealing with the 7 rams, the 3 times the offerings that he offered up and everything like that, and reference to this here, you might want to go through it a little bit more and see what other jewels you could actually glean out of that. Because the final analogy is that, and I'd like to get to the part where and we're getting towards the final part and the book of Deuteronomy, Numbers, the 24th chapter. I just want to read just a little bit about this. In the 24th chapter, it says, when after he tried to curse the people a couple of times already, and it says, and when Bilam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel, he went not as at the other times to meet with enchantment, but he put his face towards the wilderness. And Balaam lifted up his eyes, and he saw Israel dwelling tribe by tribe, and the Spirit of God came upon him. And he took up his parable and said, so now, what's interesting is that when he decided to say, look, and that's what we know the difference is, that his intention was to curse Israel already. From that particular last segment I just read, that was his intention. But when he seen that, that the Creator wasn't going to have it, and then he saw him standing tribe by tribe. Now, if you saw him tribe by tribe, you had to say, well, is everybody doing right? And there's no one doing anything out of order. And when the Creator said, who was blessed, blessed, he used the singular. And he took up his parable and said, so what I like about that verse is that once the Spirit of the Creator came upon Bilam, that Bilam himself reluctantly became almost like possessed. He definitely wasn't possessed. He was possessed. And it wasn't himself when he had to say these things. So that's why I like to bring out said, this last verse, that the Spirit came on him of God, true and living God, came upon him. And he was possessed where he was not himself, almost like an involuntary truth serum, so to speak. The saying of Balaam, the son of Beor, and the saying of the man whose eyes is open. He's not unconscious, but he's caught up in a trance. The saying of him who heareth the words of God. That's the same level of Moses, hearing the words, not a vision. Who sees the vision of the Almighty. That means he could see things further down. Falling down, yet with eyes open. He prostrated himself. That's something he wasn't trying to do. in front of everybody. Because before he walked off and said, you hang over here, I'll go up by myself. You hang over here again, I'm going up by myself. This time he said, nah, I'm not going anywhere. All right, at this particular time. And then he used this 5th verse. How goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, thy dwellings, O Israel. All right, that's one of the prayers they say in the synagogue every week when they go in there. Every week when they first enter the synagogue. And most prayer books, that's the opening thing. You know, Matubu Aleka, Yakomishkanoteka. All right, they say that every week going in the synagogue. So why use that as the beginning of the prayer for starting your worship on the Shabbat, which is a sign between God and Israel, when you know it comes from a guy that not only hated Israel with causeless hatred, but he also wanted, us destroyed, and he meant to curse us, but only because of the Creator, he couldn't curse us. So why we still say that prayer? And the reason we say that prayer is, and one of the reasons it's given, I should say one of the reasons given, it's a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons I'm gonna share that we say that prayer, how good they love tents of Jacob, that tabernacles of Israel, is simply because it was meant to be a curse, but it turned out to be a blessing. And every time we say that prayer, we're reminded of how God looked out for us when we couldn't see and protect ourselves in our greatest moment, when we least deserve it. So this is why we constantly say that prayer. And when we enter the synagogue, and it starts off in the prayer book with our major prayers, is because it was meant to be a curse, and it turned out to be a blessing from a guy who never wanted to bless us. And you say, well, why would Balaam do so much blessings? And should be all the blessings come from Moses. Balaam gave us a major blessing, more so than Moses. Balaam is the first time you read about the saying that called the Messiah a king. This is the first time we read about it, the Messiah being a king. But then, in the last part of this here portion, we messed up. We killed ourselves because now he gave them advice how to cause the Israelites get the Creator angry. And it goes on to say, and Israel, Bold and Shechem, and the people began to commit harlotry with the daughters of Moab. And they called the people unto the sacrifice of their gods, and the people did eat and bow down to their gods. And Israel joined himself unto the Baal of Peor. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. And the Lord said unto Moses, take all the chiefs of the people and hang them up unto the Lord in face of the sun, that the fierce anger of the Lord may turn away from Israel. And Moses said unto the judges of Israel, slay ye every one his men that have joined themselves unto Baal Peor. All right. Then it says, and behold, one of the children of Israel came and brought unto his brethren a Midianitish woman in the sight of Moses, and in the sight of all the congregation of the children of Israel, while they were weeping at the door of the tent of meeting. And when Phinehas, we refer to as Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, saw it, he rose up from the midst of the congregation, took a spear in his hand, and went in after the man of Israel into the chambers, and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel, and those that died by the plague were 24,000. So now, that set the stage for most of you already did for Pinchas. But one of the things that where he couldn't curse us, we curse ourselves. We participate in things we shouldn't be participating. And not only was harlotry involved, but idolatry worship. So we committed harlotry in both areas, physically and spiritually at the same time with a deity when God just saved us from somebody that wanted to damage us. And it's at the advice of Balaam, the elders of Midian, and with the women of Moab, because you notice later on, just going a little bit ahead, that we was told to fight and avenge ourselves with the Midianites. Why we never told to go against Moab? Because Moab was genuinely had a fear. Midian, in another direction, we have no issue with you. Why would you contribute to our downfall? So it's one of those things, and when we look back at why Amalek, attacked the nation of Israel, Balaam seen the whole nation, and Balak thought that maybe it's too many people. What are you looking at? What's the order? What's the structure? How they laid out? But that's another story. When we go into the book of Micah a little bit, those few verses there, and we'll try to tie that in with the Sidra. So the book of Micah, some people say Micah. We'll be picking it up from the 5th chapter and the 6th verse, and it's going to the 6th chapter and the 8th verse. Now, what's interesting is that all we know about concerning this particular prophet, I'll just say Micah, just for the sake of everybody else out there, that he prophesied during the reign of several other prophets, and all we know is around the time frame of just before the Assyrians took the northern kingdom into captivity. That's what we read about here. So just before the Assyrians got ready to take the other 10 tribes into Assyria and spread them out throughout the nations. So now this is where we pick up here. So he prophesies to them about those that already prophesied, because he talks about the kings. So when he talks about the kings in the opening of the book, we know what time period and what historical events was going on at the time. So there's 10 tribes that was taken into the captivity. We know the Assyrians took the 10 tribes in captivity around 722, 721, circa BCE. So around that particular time, which is about almost 133 years before Nebuchadnezzar took Judah into captivity. So if you're ready, Chief, we'll pick it up on the 6th verse of Micah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
We're in the book of Micah. The chapter is 5, verse 6. Hallelujah. Give me 1 second here, Chief. Please.
Okay.
And the remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of many peoples, as dew from Yehudah, as showers upon the grass, that are not looked for from men, nor waited at the hands of the sons of men.
Stop right there. Mm-hmm. Right. 1, dew and showers. All right. Dew itself and showers come strictly from above. Dew, when it comes down, or water when you water the grass, is freely given. So it's a divinely given thing. And we don't reproduce dew. We don't reproduce water. But what we have is water. When it comes down and water the earth, it doesn't get no reciprocal benefit. So that let you know that that's how much freely given that this is given to us. Because when the dew comes down, it soaks in and it gets nothing back. There's no more dew, no more whatever. When water is water in the grass, that's it. There's nothing in return from that, as far as the water. So the water and the dew gets no benefit. So when it shows that that's coming down, and this is almost like Hazienu, when Moses started off with, the song about his words going to drop as the dew and it still will rain. So he told the heavens to stand still because he has something to say. But so we're going to pick it up from the 7th verse.
Verse 7 reads, and the remnant of Jacob shall be among the nations in the midst of many peoples, as a lion among the beasts of the forest, as a young lion among the flocks of the sheep, who if he go through, treadeth down and teareth in pieces, and there is none to deliver. Let thy hand be lifted up above thine adversaries, and let all thine enemies be cut off.
Hold right there before we go to the 9th. All right. So now it's talking about a reformation, a restoration of a people that's taken into captivity and spread out throughout all the 4 corners of the earth. Because that's what the Assyrians basically did. All right, so 9th verse, what it says?
Verse 9 says, And it shall come to pass in that day, saith Jehovah, that I will cut off thy horses out of the midst of thee, and I will destroy thy chariots. And
Keep
I will
going.
cut off the cities of thy land, and will throw down all thy strongholds.
Keep going.
And I will cut off witchcrafts out of thy hand, and thou shalt have no more soothsayers. And it will, and I will cut off thy graven images, thy pillars out of the midst of thee, and thou shalt
Keep
no
going.
more worship the work of thy hands. And I'll
Keep
pluck
going.
up thy asherim out of the midst of thee, and I'll destroy thine enemies, and I will execute vengeance and anger and fury upon the nations, because they hearken not.
Hold it right there. Hold it right there. Now, we going in captivity. The first temple was destroyed because of idolatry worship. The second one, basically, they say it's caused us hatred, arguing over customs, traditions, what the words say. So we couldn't stand each other and trying to and being jealous and of the other people's knowledge. But here, the Creator says right here that when he get ready to bring us up, where we could roar like a lion and be victorious and being bold, and said, you don't have anything to show that you had that capability. Your horses, the best horses came from Egypt. They said a king not supposed to multiply horses unless, they caused you to go back to Egypt, because Egypt had the best horses. For some reason, they must have migrated to Arabia. But basically, originally, the best horses was down in Egypt. And then some kind of way later on, maybe it might have shifted over, another migration where the Arabian horses, the race horses of the day. And then when they talk about, chariots, you don't have any kind of tanks, no kind of arsenal. So you don't have none of that. And where Sikon and all had military strength and might that they believed in, and Balak believed in spiritual warfare, said, y'all not even going to go that route. You're not even going to deal with divination, witchcraft, sorcery, soothsaying. Saul, he resulted to that at the very end. He said, look here, God ain't talking to me. I need to get somebody to talk to. So I had a witch in the stash. So he had a witch in the stash. He goes there and disguises himself, knowing he wrong. And said, call me up this man. And then when she said, call him up the man, this woman deal with familiar spirits. So when she's dealing with familiar spirits, she's looking to call somebody that she's familiar with, not some stranger. And then what I like about the story, when I think about it, that some people miss the connotation of the story in reference to here it is that when Samuel appeared, the woman could see the form. Saul could not see this form. But Samuel never talked to the witch. He only talked to Saul, and only Saul could hear, even with other people around. And what he heard was not good. But one of the things to emphasize is that we won't even think about going to that as help. So I gotta say certain prayers, I gotta do certain kind of rituals to try to get this thing off. So the Creator said, oh, that's gonna be gone. You won't be using that. So you ain't got no military might, you ain't got no arsenal, and you don't have any sidelines other than me that gonna make this happen. And that's what they're saying. And then this is supposed to be in the latter days, not immediate, it's supposed to be in the latter days. So let's pick it up in the 6th chapter.
Chapter 6 reads, verse 1. Hear ye now what Jehovah saith. Arise, contend thou before the mountains, and let the hills hear thy voice. Hear, O ye nations, Jehovah's controversy, and ye enduring rocks, the foundations of the earth. For Jehovah hath a controversy with his people, and he will plead with Yisrael. O my people, what have I done unto thee? And wherein have I wearied thee? Testify against me.
All right, yeah, okay. All right, before we go further. All right. Now, this is something. All right. So, when you talk about, creating rise, contend thou before the mountains, and let the hills hear thy voice. And hear, O ye mountains, the Lord's controversy. Now, do God need to bring a witness? Do God, and what's so great about this and what I like about this is that no religion that exists on the planet prior to our way of life have even an inkling of a thing where they could bring their God to trial. You know, and talk about they have a gripe with their God. They bring petitions and pleas and bargaining chips in the sense of, I'm trying to bribe you. But the Creator allow us and said, look, and he said, you notice he didn't say the stars. When Moses said, I call heaven and earth the witness. But the Creator didn't say, I'm not talking about the mountains. Why? Because the mountains down here with us. We ain't up there with the stars. We ain't up there with the sun and all the other stuff. We down here on earth. So normally in this society, they say you be judged by a jury of your peers. Sometimes I wonder where they get it from, because some people don't have a high school diploma, or whatever the case is. But anyway, it's supposed to be a jury of your peers that you're going to be judged by. The Creator himself says, stand and say, I let the mountains, you know what I mean? You got to bring this here to the mountains. Something that you can identify with, because you not only met me at the mountain, but also you are part of this earth physically. And you're physically messing up a lot of stuff. So this is one of the areas there. And it says, when have I weary, testify against me? In other words, I know what your complaint is. I got the complaint. And I got the complaint, but I know what your complaint is about. And I said, go ahead, talk about me. Now that's the kind of God we serve. That he wants you to try to find some fault in him. You know, and that no other religion even come close to that. None. Prior to our way of life. So we are definitely a unique people when we have a source of a power like that. But let's pick it up from the 6th verse. No, better. I'm sorry. From the 4th verse.
Verse 4.
Sorry.
And it reads,
Right.
For I brought thee up out of the land of Egypt and redeemed thee out of the house of bondage. And I sent before thee Moses, Aaron, and Miriam.
Hold it, that's a resume. That's a resume. Keep going.
O my people, remember now what Balak, king of Moab, devised, and what Balaam, the son of Beor, answered him, from Shittim unto Gilgal, that ye may know the righteous acts of Yahuwah. Hallelujah.
Oh, right there. All right. No. That's not. We got 2 more verses.
Okay.
We go to the 8. We go to the 8 on that. All right. So now, it tell you right in there. That's the tie-in with the Sidra. All right. Balak, the king of Moab, and what Balaam the son of Beor answered him. All right. It's written so that it could be a testimony what he did without you knowing that he's doing this for you. And that's what it is. And so he bringing up about that. Y'all had Moses. You notice how the order he brought it in. He brought it after you physically know I'm rescuing you. You physically see a whole lot of stuff going on. But what about the wonders you don't see behind the scene that I had to tell you about? Those are things that he's bringing out here. And then he said, and then this also shows you the status of Miriam. That it said Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. Each one of these, the Miriam was supposed to be the leader of the women. And she's the first Israelite prophetess. And it starts off with her. And it goes on to say, pick it up from verse 6.
Verse 6. Wherewith shall I come before Yahuwah and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves of a year old? Will Yahuwah be pleased with thousands of rams, with 10,000s of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? It hath been told thee, O man, what is good and what Yahuwah doth require of thee, only to do justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with thy God. Hallelujah.
Now, what's interesting is that when he used the word, when he had the controversy with people, I like to go back to the 8th verse, and in that particular chapter. Let me get this Hebrew part out.
You want me to read it?
All right. Okay, you got it. Well, I got
Verse
it too. But
8
go ahead.
in the same chapter.
Yeah, 8 verse.
8
Yeah,
verse
same chapter.
reads, "It have been told thee, O man, what is good, and what
Hold on,
Yehovah."
wait, stop that. All right, no, I mean, no, I meant to, get it in the Hebrew sense.
Oh, in the Hebrew, I got it. It says,
Okay.
It says, he geed.
Matter of fact, pick it up in the 5th verse. That's important. I'm not 12. Go on way down. Okay.
Verse.
Pick it up from yeah.
It says, Ami.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
You want me to read?
Yeah, let me make sure I got it in my book. I got it in my book here. Be with you, so I can stick with you on that. I'm too far up. Oh, okay, great. I started 8th verse. That's the 8th verse. That's it. That's 8th verse.
All right. 8th verse reads. I'll tell you, read it right now. It says, he geed lekha.
He geed lekha means tell you go ahead.
He geed lekha Adam ma tov.
All right, which is man, and which is the man or people. All right. All right. It said
ma tov.
What it required of man. In other words, it would have been told to thee, man, what's required. We use the word Adam. That's for all man.
Right.
When he used the term Adam, it means all men. All right. And he used matov. All right. So matov itself is almost a reflection of matuvu when I talk about the opening prayer. Mm-hmm. All right. And then so and when Bilam seen the tents and say how goodly that tents of Israel, that tabernacle, how goodly that tents of Jacob, that tabernacle to Israel, he's seen the moral standards that we're supposed to stand up to, how we're supposed to live, and how we're supposed to deal with one another. He saw something that no other nation was able to produce, just from looking at how we're situated around the tabernacle, the Mishkan itself, and with the 3 tribes, east, north, south, and west. All right, so he's seen all that, and he knew the purpose, because he's not down there asking. And then so it says right here, and been told to thee, O man, and it's Adam, the sons of man. That means Adam knew about a certain type of moral code of ethics. That's why I used the word Adam as opposed to each. Matov, which is how good or what good is. All right. So you could use it to say how good or what is good, and what the Lord required. Umar, finish that.
It says Umar Yehovah Doresh Minka.
Right.
Umar Yehovah Doresh Minka.
Right. And the Darash is like a lesson or a narration, which is being told a story. It's like something that you had to investigate. All right, keep going.
It says Ki'im. Say Ki'im Asot Mishpat.
All right.
Judgment.
All right. So it means judgments. And the love of Kesed itself, we're gonna stop right there. Kesed itself, it's mostly translated mercy. Actually, as another word that's come in Hebrew, it's called has. That's just plain hate samic. All right. It's more compassion, because rakum is like a mercy. So Kesed itself is a little different, in that sense. Because when you talk about mercy usually is rendered after judgment, most of the times. But when you're talking about, and it's another word in Hebrew which is called chaim, which is grace, which is an altogether difference. It's not anything in your resume that you can earn with that. That's just strictly given. But Kesed is like a compassion that even if you got beat down, even if you had, paid your dues for something like that there, which we talked about being in captivity, being dispersed and being brought back out and being stripped of. any physical powers, but yet we have all the power within it that everybody else could see. And we act like we got all that kind of power. So here, when we talk about kesef itself, that compassion, that goes, a lot further, because even when you had to chastise your children, and you meant the chastising, but you chastise them for their good, and you still feeling this bad. A lot of times we say, well, when the people used to say, this is gonna hurt me more than it hurts you. And you say, well, I'm the one getting beat down. How this gonna hurt you more than hurting me? I'm the one taking them lashes, But for them to have to be motivated to go that way, and knowing I still got to take care of you. So you're getting beat down for violating, and I hate to have to beat you down, and then like I'm taking care of somebody that got to beat down. So imagine how the Creator, when he dealt with us, he got to take care of somebody he got to beat down, somebody that he been helping all the time. So that's where the pain and the hurt comes from. So that's where the word talk about compassion. So, and everybody loves those things, but they love it for themselves, but they don't love to have it shared with other people. So I hope you got something out of what I said. I know I took a little bit long time to try to keep it a little tight. But any mistakes were my own, and thanks everybody for their time. And say Shalom Aleichem.
Torah Nasik for your diligence and for your time. May the Most High God, creator of heaven and earth, be with you and bless you. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Amen.